3 months after we buried my wife, Julia, I was still moving through the house like a ghost, except for Mason, our 2-year-old sunbeam, who kept me anchored with blocks, babble, and snack requests. My brother Patrick, golden smile, tin core, threw his son's first birthday party. From the minute Mason and I stepped into the backyard, conversations clipped short and eyes ping-ponged between my kid and me. Then Patrick climbed a wobbly patio chair and announced, "Mason isn't David's, he's mine. And per Julia's will, I'm owed half of David's $900,000 house." He flourished a document like it was the Constitution. I said, "Oh, I see," and didn't spill my drink, because it was impossible. 2 years before Mason was born, during a hernia repair, I'd also had a vasectomy. Julia and I banked samples, then conceived via IVF. Every step logged by Boston specialists and tucked into a safety deposit box alongside our real wills. Only she and I knew. Julia and I had met at a fundraiser, her a pediatric nurse who lit up rooms without trying, me an architect who could barely keep the AV system from shrieking. We built a life in a creaky colonial with good bones, learned home repair the hard way, and survived years of infertility before Mason arrived. Through it all, Patrick hovered, compliments that overstepped, jokes about the wrong brother, hands that lingered too long. Julia handled him with polite firmness. I told myself not to start a family war. After the party stunt, I visited the bank. Out came my surgical records, the IVF files, Julia's notarized will naming Mason as sole heir with me as executor, and a letter she'd written 6 months before she died. "Be careful with Patrick. He's jealous. Don't let anyone rewrite our story. I took everything to our lawyer, Daniel Reeves. He needed 5 minutes to call Patrick's will a masterclass in fraud. Even if it were real, Julia couldn't bequeath half a house that, by right of survivorship, transferred to me the moment she died. He suggested we bring in a PI he trusted, Claire Morton. Claire worked fast. In 48 hours, she'd mapped Patrick's life. $80,000 in debt, 15 grand owed to South Boston poker sharks, evicted, sleeping on a buddy's couch. Texts revealed he'd been planning his performance for weeks, researching inheritance law and, most damning, paying a forger named Tommy Ritchie $1,500 for the fake will. Tommy had been arrested days earlier. If Patrick used that document, he wasn't just lying, he was stepping into a federal case. Claire's plan: don't confront, record. Let him talk himself into handcuffs. I invited Patrick over while Mason napped, set a phone on the coffee table, and said I wanted a clear record of Julia's wishes. He agreed, smiling. "Tell me about you and Julia," I said. He launched into a bad paperback. Julia was lonely. I was never around. Their relationship began right after my hernia surgery. He just knew Mason was his. Look at the kid's face. Then he produced the forged will and explained how Julia had secretly wanted him to claim his son and his share of my house. When he ran out of fiction, I slid over my medical records. "Here's the problem with your timeline," I said. "I've been sterile since March 15th, 2019. Mason was conceived via IVF. We have the clinic logs, the lab reports, everything color-drained. I added Julia's actual will, Claire's dossier, and Tommy Ritchie's arrest. You've just confessed to fraud, forgery, and attempted theft. On tape." He broke. Not with remorse, with fear. The people he owed weren't payment plan types. He begged. I had enough to bury him. But rage is heavy, and Julia's letter asked me to protect Mason, not scorch the earth. So I gave Patrick 2 choices. Option 1, prison. Option 2, sign a binding confession admitting the lies, renounce any claim to my property or Mason, accept supervised invite-only contact, call every relative who heard his announcement, and publicly correct the record, then get a real job, meet a financial counselor, and attend Gamblers Anonymous. Violate anything, and the DA gets the recording. He signed every page with shaking hands, then made the calls. A year later, on an April morning bright enough to hurt, Mason woke me by bouncing on the bed and demanding red flowers. Planting. De Julia's tradition. We turned the front yard into a cheerful riot of color. Patrick drifted up the sidewalk, thinner, quieter, asking if he could help. Mason shrieked, "Uncle Patrick," and deputized him as assistant foreman. I said yes, with boundaries still in place. Truth is, Patrick had done the work. He'd confessed to the family, kept his distance, held steady warehouse hours, met with the counselor, and stuck with GA. He hadn't asked me for a dime. Packing up the trowels, he watched Mason snore on the steps and said, "He looks just like you did at that age." Then, eyes on the grass, "I'm sorry for all of it." "I know," I said. "Keep earning it." That afternoon, I took Mason to Julia's grave. We told her about the flowers, about Uncle Patrick, sad before, better now, as Mason put it with toddler bluntness. That night, I opened a new file, the Julia Grant Nursing Scholarship Fund, small to start, steady by design. Grief's sharp edges have dulled into an ache I can live with. The house Patrick tried to steal is still ours. The garden is loud and alive. Mason is thriving. Patrick? Not perfect, but better. And if he stays better, he gets to be an uncle worth bragging about. Julia would have liked that ending. She always did love a good redemption arc. Just not the kind you fake with a forged will.